How's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Thanks for coming out. I know it's hot outside, so being inside is a little bit nicer.
Oh, it's hot shit
My
out
name is
there.
Jason from Hard Money Bankers. If you've never met me before, my partner Chris is in the back. If anyone over the next 2 hours or so has any questions related to lending, financing, we are obviously happy to help you. We have Shaun Magner here tonight, who we're really excited to have up because I think the topic we're going to talk about tonight is very applicable. There are a lot of people in this room grinding kind of every day in a full-time job, but also investing in real estate. And either if it's one rental property or it's a bunch of flips or a whole real estate portfolio. Investing in real estate, it doesn't have to be a full-time gig. It's a type of business that you can do full-time, part-time. So he's got some really good information to share with you. One of the things that we do here is we don't typically do full presentations. It's more of a story of what's currently working locally with real active investors. We don't ever bring in gurus or selling or pitching or anything like that. That's just not our type of gig. So Shaun certainly is not trying to sell you anything tonight. He's got nothing to sell. He just wants to share his experience, and hopefully, maybe if you get to know Shaun, you can exchange deals. Maybe you can buy a deal from you, maybe you can sell a deal to you, whatever the case is. So hopefully that works out. A few people I do want to quickly introduce that have helped us grow this meetup group. Ian Horowitz is in the back. If he wants to raise his hand, he's from Equity Warehouse. He owns a lot of rental properties in the Baltimore area. They do some flips as well. So, say hi to him. He likes to talk. So he's happy to help anyone as well. I don't see Jimmy in here. Okay. I'll introduce you to some other people. A wholesaler named Terry Royce, he'll be here soon, and a local builder, a guy named Jimmy Harris. They've all kind of helped us grow this meetup group. So Shaun's going to do his thing for like 30 minutes or so. We'll do a little Q&A after you're done, because I know you'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. And then we actually have Pete Belden and Aaron Foster. They're going to come in after we'll take a break in like 30 minutes or so. And they both also have full-time jobs, and they'll share their experience as well. And it's kind of a way to just look at a few different people and see where they're currently working and seeing kind of how they become successful in real estate investing. So, Shaun, if you want to jump on up here.
Sure thing.
Do your thing.
Sure thing. Thank you, sir. Do I need this?
Yeah, you need both.
I need both?
Yeah, because this one's for the room, that one's for the camera.
Oh, all right. I got you.
Sit right here and close the top whenever you're ready for me.
Sounds good. All right, guys.
Come over this way.
Oh, where's the camera? All right. Jason, Chris, everyone else from Hard Money Bankers, thanks so much for the invite coming in tonight. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous, so bear with me if there's some speed bumps, right, or some slips. This is probably one of the bigger crowds that I've talked to, especially specifically on this topic. So, in talking with Jason in preparation for tonight, he kind of asked that I kind of tell my story, and then we'll get into a little bit of a Q&A. So I did put together a little bit of a kind of a cheat sheet so I could stay on topic here. But my story is probably not a lot different than most of yours, right? I mean, I still I've seen all the shows. I've watched all the HGTV shows. A little bit of a junkie over the years. Always had an interest in real estate investing. Wasn't really sure how to kind of break the ice and how to get involved, but. So to kind of back up a bit, the story starts for me after high school, went to a trade school. After there, for 4 years, I worked as a carpenter. Had really no idea what I wanted to do with my life, no real direction yet. Parlayed some relationships that I had gained through working in the field to gain a sales job in a building material manufacturer. So I was working in sales for a building material manufacturer, leveraged that up to another role, making more money, making a little more money at my next job, and all the while saving and making more money and saving more. Putting that money away, I didn't really know what I was going to do with it, where I was putting it, if where I was putting it was right or not. So what I ended up doing, I just kind of padded the IRAs, the Roths, the traditionals, even the 401ks. Really wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing or not. But if you fast forward to August of 2015, I responded to one of these guru radio ads. I'm sure you've all heard them. Anybody heard these? Raise a hand. Have anybody heard these guru radio ads, right? All right, well, I responded to one, just bought in. I'm like, I'm gonna check this out. I really didn't know what I was doing. So I bought into it. That was August of 15. I started networking then thereafter, and I didn't really, again, I didn't know what I was doing. I had bought some books. They were the wrong books. They didn't talk about hard money. They didn't talk about RIAs. They didn't talk about meetups. They were pretty much informative. So I started, when I reached out to this guru thing, I started networking more and more with local RIAs and some meetups. And I learned early on to go to those things with a purpose. Like you guys are here tonight, like I'm here tonight. I come to these things with a purpose. I don't come to be a wallflower and just kind of, and it's, again, it's a little nerve-wracking to walk up to a complete stranger and hand them your business card, tell them what you do, what you want to do, and execute a successfully comfortable conversation. It's not going to happen, I get that. But it's important you go with one goal. So I went to a meetup or a RIA event, and I said, tonight I'm going to meet a hard money lender. I don't know if I need one yet, but I'm going to meet one. I'm going to put him in my team, right? I'm going to put him on my team. So he's actually here tonight, a buddy of mine, Scott, in the back. He introduced me to a realtor that I use now. I use a lot. My realtor introduced me to a contractor who introduced me, it just kind of snowballed, it continued to snowball. He also introduced me to a guy that became my mentor who was here a few months ago doing a presentation on his rental portfolio. And I mean, the rest it just kind of snowballed quickly. So if I can walk you through this brief little timeline, this is what's my story, as Jason asked that I tell it. So if October 15th, I took all those, October of 2015, I took all those savings, all the 401ks, the Roth IRAs. I learned about these custodians that offer self-directed products, right? Products that I could gain access to these funds, or I could at least deploy these funds to make money for me. So I took 401ks, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, transferred from the custodian that I had them with to a custodian that offered these self-directed products. And that allowed me to begin the journey of investing. Now, I started out thinking I was going to flip. I know a lot of people take I'm going to wholesale, then I'm going to flip, and then eventually buy rentals. Well, learning how to deploy that money, those retirement savings from those years sooner allowed me to kind of leapfrog into just buying, kind of focusing on the rentals. Anyway, 2015, I attended that RIA. November of 15, I attended the RIA, met Scott there. In January of 16, I bought my first flip. In February of 16, I bought my first rental. That was February of 16. So in the last 15 months, I've managed to acquire 21 rentals. At June of 16, I started a new job while having five rental rehabs under construction, which was daunting because starting a new job in that industry requires me traveling around the country a bit for training and such, so I was out of pocket, out of the city. So that added like a different level of complexity. So in October of 16, through my networking efforts, like you guys are doing now, and the education I gained from those, I was able to negotiate a 10-unit package, seller finance package of rental properties in a neighborhood that I like in Baltimore City. By the way, all my rentals are Baltimore City. I'm a Baltimore City landlord, and I primarily flip in and around the city. I don't get too far outside of the city because it's where I live, and it's just really convenient. So that was that seller financing package in October. I also started a flipping business with my contractor. He's done 10 houses for me. Why not? We have a good thing going. Let's start a business together, so we'll flip some houses. So we started that. In February of 17, I was able to refinance 6 of my rental properties into a portfolio loan with a local bank. And I was able to do all 6 before the first season, like the seasoning period, if you will, the 1-year seasoning period on the first property. So that was pretty awesome. And today, just a snapshot of where we are. We've got 1 flip on the market, 1 nearing the finish line, 2 under contract to start next month, and 2 rentals under construction as well. So we've rehabbed about 13 houses in the last 15 months. So that's kind of the story of where I am and how, like my snapshot of a story. But the job that I had rather, and I'll explain that in a minute, it was a sales job. It was an outside sales job for a construction building material manufacturer. That job comes with a lot of flexibility. If any of you watched the ramp-up video to tonight, Ian Horwitz mentioned in there, if you have a job that allows you to take calls from tenants or from your contractors, I mean, that just goes a long way. I wasn't locked into a 9-to-5, right? So I was very, very flexible in that way. So again, that's kind of my story. That's really how I got, like, the last 16 months, what it's looked like for me. But I guess that's kind of that. I'm going to kind of go ahead, lead it over to Glenn to start the Q&A.
No, it's good. That's a great starting point. So let me just recap a little bit what Shaun said and what Jason said, and then we'll prod you for some info. In that introduction, there's some really good stuff. So the first thing is, and Shaun mentioned Ian, Jason mentioned Ian, and when talking about this room and this group, first off, there's a bunch of newbies that were here earlier, and welcome. We're glad to have you guys, and everyone that comes in here asks, hey, are you a regular member? What's the subscription fee? Well, there's no fee. We're never going to charge anything. This is about value and doing the right things. You bought a guru thing, you said it was kind of hokey, but it got you here, so it worked on some level.
Right.
So this is a better version of that, in that there's no selling, there's no gurus, there's none of that. It's just pure value, and that's why when Shaun said it's kind of awkward to talk to people, it's fine. That's your only thing that you have to do, is cost yourself a little bit of awkward, hey, how you doing, what do you do? Ian Horowitz, we mentioned earlier, and the other couple advisors for this meetup group have done a ton of deals. Ian and his partner Dan are full-time Baltimore City firefighters, going back to the full-time job, allowing you some flexibility. Work 3 days, off 4 days. It gives you an opportunity to run their rental portfolio and their fix and flip model. So just talk to these two guys in the back. They look like full-time real estate investor firefighters, because they do. Ian is in the back there. And by the way, they're always looking to buy and or sell properties, so if you have them, you know, there are good outlets there. And just pure knowledge. So, getting to the knowledge piece. You mentioned many things, Shaun. I was taking notes while you were talking. And the basis of this is full-time job and then becoming a real estate investor. You mentioned self-directed IRAs. So let's start there. How many people have heard of the term self-directed IRAs? A lot. Well done. Okay. For those who haven't, because it's about 75% that have, that's good. That means we have an educated room. Right. Explain to them the idea of a normal IRA's custodian by your company, and they allocate it, or whatever, you know, Kelly Services or Lake Mason or what have you. They allocate it to mutual funds or stocks or a few different things that you can put your 401k money in. Explain the real process of a self-directed IRA and why that is so powerful, that gave you the buying power and the ability to do what you needed to do.
Sure. So I guess I should start by saying I am not an expert in this area, not at all. So don't jot this down and quote me. But what I did, my experience I can speak to. Again, I had a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA with Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, and I had a 401k with the company that I was working for. Those companies, those custodians, did not offer self-directed products. So they were locked up. They were locked in until I hit a certain age, and that was it, and that was a problem, right? Well, I learned through these networks that these self-directed products existed. What the heck is a self-directed product? A self-directed custodian, I can say this, I took those funds from those custodians, took it over to another custodian. That custodian allows you to lend from or buy with those funds, right? So I don't really want to go into too much more detail of that, other than it just allows you to gain access to some retirement money before you thought you actually could.
So it's a great way if you don't think you have cash on hand, but you do, because again, the premise is you have a full-time job and I want to dabble in real estate and then become a real estate guru. You may not think you have enough cash. Well, there are options with your self-directed IRA. Talk to an expert, et cetera, but that's what this is for. Yes, ma'am, in the front.
When you move from your regular IRA to a self, you can move everything with no penalty?
Yeah. It's just a different administrator. It's a different custodian.
I think there's some sort of a couple $100 administration fee that you have to pay, and that was it. So per account.
It's not taking money out of your IRA early and having to pay that penalty. That's not what it is.
No.
Okay, so you discovered a self-directed IRA from the books and the tapes and whatever else, talking to people, mingling, your mentor, what have you. Great. Okay, so now I've got the funds. How do I find a property? Let's get to your first flip.
Sure.
Give us the idea of you're working a non-9 to 5 outside sales job, so it gives you the flexibility, and we'll talk more about that, because what may seem like common sense or commonplace to you may be a gem for others. Your first flip, how did you find it? How did you identify it? Walk us through that process.
Sure thing. So I mentioned Scott Freitag again. I'm plugging my buddy out there, but Scott introduced me to a realtor, an aggressive realtor named Joe. Joe and I hit it off. We started looking at properties. I was still so new. I didn't know what I was doing, but they said it was a deal. I ran through the only calculators that I had at the time that I was definitely not familiar with, but everything looked like it was a deal. So I met a realtor. I met a hard money lender who introduced me to a realtor that he knew, and then we started started looking at houses and crunching the numbers. And then once I found the house, I worked with a hard money lender and got the financing in place. And
what kind of property?
It was a single family bungalow in the Hamilton neighborhood, 21214 of Baltimore, Maryland.
And what kind of work did it need?
Oh man, that place is a mess. Catherine, you were there. That place is a dump. So it was believe it or not, it was a 5-1. Can you imagine? 5-1. 5 bedrooms, 1 bathroom. It was 2,000 square feet. It was an it ended up being about a $91,000 rehab, $61,000 purchase. But it needed everything.
So you're looking at 152 and you made it a 4.2?
I made it a 4.2, yep.
Right.
Finished basement, yep. All new mechanicals in that. We ended up putting that on the market and sold it in 3 days for $225.
So, good profit. How long were you in it total?
Actually, 2 days shy of 5 months from settlement to settlement.
That's great. What, this contractor, is it the same one you did 10 deals with and ended up partnering with? How did you find your first contractor?
Again, the relationships, these networks, I can't
It's everything. That's why I'm going to hit on it
It absolutely is, man. You're absolutely right. So the realtor that I found, the reason he was introduced to me is because he's so familiar with the investing community. He's done a number of flips himself. He did 8 flips with this particular contractor, so he recommended that contractor to me.
So you're working your normal job, so let's get to that, right? How did you allocate time to your regular job and then calling the realtor, making the connections, finding the contractor, doing the numbers? Is this all right, I'm home, I finished dinner, it's now 9:30, and I'm going to crank out the laptop and work on my real estate business? How did you do that?
If you ask those closest to me how I did that, they would say I didn't. Perception was reality for a while. The hours that I devoted to the job were maybe 10, 15, 20 a week, realistically. I mean, it was more of a customer service job anyway, or kind of, not customer service, but an account management role, more or less. It wasn't hard selling. But you're right, I mean, I would come home, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk at all, if you follow this guy, he's pretty cool on social media. Well, he talks about, I don't care what you do from 9 to 5, what do you do from 5 to 9, right? So there were times I was grinding until the wee hours of the night, I'd pour a scotch and I'd just I'd sit in front of the computer for hours, and that's what I did. But I don't know that answers your question directly.
It answers it.
Okay, all right, well.
You faked on your real job so you could build your real estate portfolio. Got it. And you did it good enough to continue to be employed and make your real money, so you pay your 9 to 5. And we'll get to that.
Who's in charge of editing this video?
Well, I mean, you said earlier, you paid it off earlier that it was your job, so we can
we'll get into that.
Fun of how lazy you were on their time.
I'm not saying that's the only way to do this.
No, what you're really saying is that you were efficient with your clients in your sales job to give you the freedom to, and all kidding aside, be smart about your 9 to 5 so you can keep that. And we'll get into how you bucketed different forms of money, because I think it's important. We'll get to that later. Start in the back, though. Questions?
Sean, obviously I was familiar with the situation. Share with everyone, because you had a plan, and it was in writing. It wasn't just, in your head.
Goal setting.
Maybe it's just a dream. You had a plan, and obviously I think the first time I saw it was at 10 o'clock on a Friday night. So if you could share that.
So what Scott's talking about, Friday night, 10 o'clock on a Friday night, I was home again, burning the midnight oil, working, and launched an email to him. We had just met at a networking event. I lined up, I asked him to meet me for a coffee because I wanted to pick his brain a bit. And during that meeting, we were at Starbucks for like 3 hours, and we're just chatting, and I kind of laid out what my short-term and long-term goals were. I knew exactly what they were, and I basically set those out there and reverse engineered them and started deploying my action steps to achieve them. I mean, it was, I'm sure a lot of us have read some of the similar books, the Rich Dad books and those. I mean, it's just execute, man. That's it, just execute. Set a plan and execute.
So you sell the first place in, call it 5 months. You make top line, obviously, because there's holding costs and hard money and stuff like that. You made 75 grand, call it something like that, right? Top line,
sure.
Whatever.
Yep.
From the sales price to what you added, at least hard money. You're hooked. You're now hooked. You've done your first deal. Have you been trying to grab other deals and they hadn't come to fruition? Or did you say, I'm going to do this one, I'm only going to do this one, I'm going to keep my job as my sort of backstop, and if this goes well, maybe I'll do another? Or were you all the way in, maybe 2 months into the, give us that thought.
So,
some people are scared to make a leap. You made a leap, but you had your fail-safe.
Well, so to back up a few months, so I bought that house in January 25th of 16. In February, mid-February, I purchased my first rental, and that's really what hooked. That's what kept the claws in me, the rentals did, because I saw that wealth, that vehicle to really establish a big portfolio and a wealth, to build my wealth, and also to cash flow, so I could walk away from the 9 to 5. Quite honestly, I don't know about you guys that have a job in here, but I don't want a job, and that was my focus. I wanted, some people love their job. I mean, I know these guys, they're firefighters, they love their job, and that's awesome, much respect for that, but for me, it wasn't for me, man. I want to wear my Vans and an untucked shirt every day of the year. That's what I want to do. I don't want the 9 to 5. So anyway, to back up, while I had the flip under contract, I met Mark Owens, my buddy who was here before. And Mark introduced me to the ability to execute that BRRRR strategy. I don't know if you guys have done any research on rental acquisitions, if that's your focus or not, but that BRRRR is you buy, rehab, rent, refinance, do it all over again, right? So he introduced me to the ability to do that. Since I took those funds that were locked up and I unlocked them, I now have the ability to kind of leapfrog over that wholesaling and rehabbing and just start acquiring rentals. So I bought my first rental in February of 16, and by the time I sold that first flip, I was already renovating 4 other rentals. So my goal that I reverse engineered a minute ago, I set a different one and started working at that one.
So then you get a new job, and you're 5 rehabs in at one time.
Yeah.
So you have a bunch of rentals, you have a bunch of flips going on, and you have a new job.
Yep.
Walk us through that. Are you saying to yourself, new job? At this point, are you saying, all right, I know where my real estate game is going, and my new job is sort of your side hustle at this point? Like, which one's your first one?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. The side hustle is the job. So I saw that I wanted a fresh set of downs from my previous job. What I mean by that is, before I, drew too much attention for, not working my job and grinding over here building the portfolio, I wanted a fresh set of downs. So I jumped ship, got a new job, again, leveraged up. It was easy to get a job when you have one. During that process, I'm traveling around the country, man, that was brutal. But your question specifically was, you have to repeat it for me, but go ahead.
No, it's just basically, how did you juggle it all? With the new job, is your new job, I don't want to say it's secondary, and I know it's on film, we don't want to make it your own.
That's all right, man.
But you're starting a new job. Most people, and people that I work with and have people that work for me, it's like, they can't get out of their own way because they're so nervous about the new job and the what ifs and maybes. You're like, well, my second job is sort of my whatever. Right. I just wanted you to walk through the mental process so people can understand that, yeah, your job is important because ultimately that's your sort of, you're guaranteed money, but really you were doing it just to make ends meet so you could build up your real estate portfolio.
That's exactly right. I basically was buying as much time as I could so that I could buy these houses, renovate them, refinance them, because it's going to look a lot more appealing to the bank when I've got W-2, more stability from the W-2 income. So the last summer was honestly just like a blur. I was grinding and grinding. I was just busy. Both phones were ringing, the work phone, the business phone, trying to assess deals, find deals, coordinate projects. It was, and all the while learning an all new product and a new company. It was a lot. It was just a lot. So I guess it took, my friends made fun of me. I taped it to my door as you leave my apartment, and it was an Excel spreadsheet. I'm a nerd with Excel. I love it. And it basically broke down my hours in a day. I would devote this to working out, this to the job, this. I literally had to do it. I mean, I had to. Otherwise, it was just, there was no structure. I couldn't have kept it all together.
So I want to get to the buy, rehab, and the refi, what Mark Owens telling you. And Mark was here a couple months ago, and he owns over 100 rental properties and gave an incredible he was here for the whole time just talking about some really black belt ninja stuff, ways to buy properties and rent them out. It was pretty impressive. If you need to get a hold of Mark, the guys in the back can get you that information. But I want to get to that in a minute. But you had a question in the back?
Yeah, a couple questions. The first one is, you mentioned that your goals were written and well defined. Would you be open to sharing what those were? And then the second question is, since you've seen tremendous success over the last year and a half, how have your goals evolved?
Those are great questions.
Question about goals.
Yep. So I'm gonna be pretty close to accurate on what my initial goal was. I knew that first year I wanted to do 5 retail rehabs, and by the year 2020 I wanted to be doing 20 a year. That was what my goal was. I had it printed off on my board right in front of my desk, and that was what my initial goal was. After learning that I could build the rental portfolio a lot sooner than I thought I could, those goals changed. And those goals now, I do, as I mentioned earlier, I have a flipping business still. My goal for that is to do 12 a year. By the end of 2018, I want to be doing 12 a year. But also by my 40th, I'd like to have 100 units. So again, set 100 units, the time, the goal, reverse engineer it, and deploy the execution. That's what I'm doing now, or I'm executing. So that's what my current goal is.
Really good. All right. This may be a bit personal, so if you don't want to answer it exactly the way I ask it, that's fine. But how did you sort your personal finance? And I think this is important for people to understand. Did you take the money that you made from your 9 to 5 and pay your day-to-day bills? And how did you bucket the real estate profits? Some of it were in an IRA, so it has to roll back in. But go through that and how you sorted that, because I think that simple sort of guidance will help people understand.
Sure. I did just that. I lived off of my W-2 income, my job. I lived off of that. I paid the bills with that. And there was some, I'm still living below my means there, so I had extra money that I could deploy to the business, or I could use in the business if I needed to, and I did do that. Because I ramped up so quickly, and we did a lot of houses, for me at least, it was a lot of houses in a short time, I did tap into some of my W-2 income to keep the business going as well, just to keep the flips going. And but mostly I use the W-2 for my day-to-day, for my groceries, my mortgage, my car payments, and that.
Tapped into it in a good way.
Absolutely.
Tapped into your W-2 income to not supplement losses, but to increase gains because there's more deals out there.
Absolutely.
Which I think is an important difference. Good money after good money as opposed to good money behind bad money.
That's right. It's all, when if you're taking your W-2 income and you're putting that towards your real estate investments, that's a no-brainer, right? That's what you have to do. Not everybody has the ability to do that, execute the self-directed stuff.
Yeah.
I would certainly suggest it. Look into it at the very least.
Here and then here.
So on that ramp up, the 1 year, that many properties, pretty impressive on that. Was that more of transferring your self-directed IRA to like allocating all that funds to dumping it into real estate?
Oh yeah, there's nothing left, man. Yeah, it's all up in the 21213.
I wanted to clarify, when you say there's nothing left, I think this is an interesting point to note, and it's something that people that are investing in real estate talk to their accountant. Again, we're not experts, but you're taking it from one asset and putting it into another.
Yeah.
So while you say it's gone, it's still in your spreadsheet nerd, so it's still in the asset column.
It's still in the asset column, and it's in an asset that I understand. I don't know what they're doing with these mutual funds. Those mutual funds, I don't control what they do, right? I don't understand what they do. It's not something I'm interested in learning about. Real estate is my passion. It's what I understand. So it just makes a heck of a lot more sense for me to just shift those assets, or shift those funds from one asset to another.
I do want to get back to the refi in a minute, but yes, sir.
So I was going to ask about just that. To what degree and at what point in this did you tap into a CPA and account, something to help you keep all this stuff on track?
When did you grab an accountant, CPA? How do you sort your books?
Sure. I tapped into a CPA tax season this year. Again, Excel has been my best friend. I don't know, for some, they need QuickBooks or Buildium, which is a property management software, or just hand your accounting and your bookkeeping over to a CPA, whatever your level of comfort is. Some people aren't into the numbers. I just enjoy it. I like updating spreadsheets, I know, but that has worked for me. I've only recently established relationships with CPAs because of tax time, and I'm going to start handing over some of that because, quite honestly, my time is better spent elsewhere.
That's right. Yes, sir, in the back.
Just following on that, from an accounting perspective, do you offset your W-2 income with expenses on the real estate side?
The question is, can you offset your W-2 income with real estate losses or passive losses or gains, stuff like that, depreciation? Go ahead,
Quite honestly, that's not a question for me. That's not a question for me. I'm cool with the spreadsheets, but...
Yeah, that's a pretty specific real estate CPA question. I know enough to be dangerous, but not enough to feel confident to answer up here. Jason might know a little bit better, but some of the stuff that we come across is people are putting their real estate in an LLC or different holdings than their W-2. That's a CPA question.
I can say this: none of my investments do I own personally.
Yeah.
So an entity owns everything that I own, right? So I own the entity. I don't want to own anything. I want to control everything, but I don't want to own anything, right? So if that maybe helps with your question a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Sir, what kind of entity work best for you while you're working?
What kind of entity is it?
Sure, everything I have, they're just LLCs. That's all I've set up. Just LLCs. I've got a few of them.
Yes, sir.
Isn't there some limitations about using your self-directed IRA for your own vehicles?
Oh, there definitely is. I mean, again, I'm going to preface that with I'm not the guy to ask those questions specifically, but there are, yes.
The question is about self-dealing in your self-directed IRA, and that is a very important question. Make sure you talk to the experts about that.
Absolutely.
There's a million companies, millions, the high number. There's plenty of companies that offer self-directed IRA model. It's nothing sketchy. It is very above board. It's a real thing. Equity Trust. I don't know what company, Shaun, that you use. That you mentioned one of the. There's plenty of them out there. It's a legitimate, real thing. A lot of people do it. It's completely above board and totally normal.
Yeah, the company I used is Provident Trust. They're out of California. There's one local. I know of one or two local that offer these self-directed products.
If you have a financial advisor or a CPA, check with them. They'll know somebody, and it's fully legit. Sir, back.
Do you handle all of your, say you're trying to grow your portfolio, are you handling them yourself? So you're
managing the rentals, is that the question?
Yourself.
That's a great question. Did you have a follow-up to that question?
Well,
looked like you weren't done talking there.
You were going to do 100 by short term.
Yeah.
If not, if you are looking now, are you still going to do that? I mean, that sounds like a lot of work.
It can be a lot of work, but there's also, as you mentioned earlier, ninja tips to limit some of that work, right? So I am managing everything myself. And I'm actually going to refer to a couple of my notes here. So some of the things that I do, I learned from my mentor. My mentor owns 100 units and works 2 hours a day at most, right? How does he do that? He manages them all himself too. He doesn't have a property management company. Simple things like, let me say this. Renovating a house, especially for somebody new, rehabbing a rental, managing the construction, GCing that yourself, that's a lot to do, especially if you have a full-time job, like I assume a lot of us in this room do. So I wouldn't necessarily say to do that. I would say maybe find a GC that you work well with and you can learn a lot from, and that your personalities mesh and that. But as far as the management of the rentals, back to your question specifically, those things, the maintenance issues, the calls, my ceiling fell in on a Friday night at 9 o'clock at night last weekend, right?
Just collecting payments.
Absolutely. Now, I'll come back to that one. But those things, I've got, if you're on Facebook, which a lot of us I'm sure are, you're on Facebook and you're in certain local networking groups, you can reach out and ask, hey, does anybody have somebody that can do this work in a pinch for me? I've done that, and I do that all the time. I use that often. Some other things that we do, we have a master key system. Is anybody in here familiar with a master key system? Okay. It's one key that can open up literally, endless numbers of doors. So a lot of my units are on a master key system. A plumber that I trust has that key. An electrician that I trust has that key. The appliance repair guy that I trust has that key. So those things are crucial because if I'm out of town training for my new job, well, I can just tell my tenant to contact that person. In fact, I'm actually working on a magnet right now, a refrigerator magnet. They stick up there. If you have an appliance issue, call this guy. This issue, call that guy. And those people have an allowance that they know not to spend more than X dollars before having to check with me, and that's it. So I also, at lease signings, I'll give a stack of envelopes with stamps on it, their labels on it, so I just hand it to them, put it in the drawer next to the refrigerator, so those things, they don't have an excuse, right? I mean, they still have excuses, but maybe they don't. Maybe it limits that. Other things that I jotted down, same material. So for my rehabs, my rentals, I use the same exact materials all the time. The same white cabinets from Home Depot, the same Sherwin-Williams paint on every one. Why? For turnovers, it streamlines it. My guys already know what they need to do if they go in and there's a beat up kitchen. They know where to get those parts. I don't have to be involved. So as far as rent collection goes, a lot of my stuff is subsidized, but most of my tenants have their own portion that they are responsible for. So, I mean, the envelope in the drawer is kind of what I do for that, and I've got a spreadsheet for it.
So basically, his card's on file at the refrigerator repair shop, at the carpet repair shop, and they know if it's under 800 bucks, ring it up. And Shaun will sort it out when he gets back from Florida. Right? I mean, that's it.
That's the idea, at least.
That's how you do it. Oh, you're locked out? Well, you're SOL because I'm out of town. Oh, wait, you're in key lock number AB22? Great. Hey, Catherine, what are you doing today? Can you go to my office and get key AB22?
And that's exactly right. No, that's exactly it. I mean, there are 4 of us that are very tight, and we all have rentals, and we are all in the same master key system. So if I'm out, the chances of all 4 of us being out of town at the same time are very, very slim. The chance of all of our mechanical tradesmen being out of town at the same time, it's impossible.
You had a couple questions in the back, so it's turn blue.
I have 2 questions. Number 1, how often do you acquire rentals where you don't actually put money into it?
How often do you acquire rentals where you're not putting money into it?
I would say seldomly, but of all the single units that I've bought, they've all needed renovated except for 1. So let's say 10 units needed renovated, 1 did not. And I also bought a package of 10 that I didn't renovate. They were all occupied. So
let's talk about that one. Why'd the guy want to sell? Or girl?
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. He's well-to-do. He doesn't need these houses. They're more of a pain in the butt for him. They're all owned free and clear. His parents they're nearing retirement, and they were involved in the management, and they just don't want to deal with it anymore. So I got very lucky in that they just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
So the reason I ask is because those are ready to go. The other answer is most need work because that's the value. That's how you get them at the price you need them at.
Right, absolutely, right.
Yes, sir.
At what point do you think you'll feel comfortable enough to leave your 9-to-5 job, or will you just keep it going?
Great question. Yeah, so repeat it just again.
The question was, at what point do I feel comfortable to leave my 9-to-5 job? I'll give you a kind of a complex answer there. So I started a new job back in June of last year, right? The idea was to get through a couple of rounds of refinancing so that I got out of hard money loans that were expensive and got into long-term end loans. And the idea there was to stick around for probably until the end of this year. Well, our company was acquired in the fall. I took a buyout back basically a few weeks back. So I was forced into leaving my job. I'm actually hemming and hawing now with considering whether I'd go back or not. But I might end up going back just because you got these systems in place, you can do it. You can also have a W-2 coming in, and that stability just looks, ask the lenders behind you. That stability goes a long way on a personal financial statement.
So that's what I wanted to get to with the refi piece of the rentals, because you buy them, you fix them up, you refi, and then you rent them out, right? So it is a much easier job to get bank conventional lending on a refi when you have a W-2 job. Was that the main reason you kept your job? Besides it was an outside sales job, you could control your own hours, which means if you wanted to be super efficient with your workload of your 9-to-5, you could.
If my portfolio then was what it is now, I definitely probably wouldn't have gone and gotten that job. But yes, the answer is yes.
Explain how you get the refi leverage from an investment bank without having a W, which is, I know the answer, but we're trying to lead you down that path.
Sure, I haven't gone down that road yet, but I do know that the cash flow, because when you're looking to do a big refi with a commercial loan, they're going to look at a global financial position, right? They're not just going to look at the houses that they're talking about. They're going to look at how safe you are as a bet, not just those houses. So they're going to look at the entire global snapshot. So they're not looking just at the portfolio, they're looking to refi, but all the other ones and what their cash flow and what their equity positions are, those things. Those, hopefully, if there's enough equity there and you've got enough cash flow and a big enough portfolio, they feel comfortable that they don't necessarily need your W-2, then great. I'm not sure yet, though.
Over here, and we'll get you guys in the back. I got Shaun.
So you said you used our money lenders as well as your own self-directed 401k, right? You have a percentage that you use, were you putting all of your money first before you went to the our money lender?
No, in order to scale the way that I did, I used as little of my own money as possible. So I just used other people's money, so I used hard money. I guess does that answer your question? When you say a percentage, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Like whatever the hard money lender's requirement was, if they require 10 or 15, 20% skin in the game. What's that?
That's pretty much all.
So you acquired a hard money loan like any other loan is going to require some money from the borrower, down payment or a percentage of acquisition, whatever it is. That's the money he allocated from his self-directed to cover the difference. It's all hard money as the back end. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Shaun, share with everybody, we're on the topic of finance and it is hosted by hard money bankers, how you finance that portfolio, because I think that's pretty creative in that aspect.
Sure. So what he's talking about was that 10-unit portfolio that I acquired from a guy that was just tired of dealing with it. Yep. He had a number in mind, and that number happened to, after I looked at the rent roll, I looked at his number, I looked at what the AM schedule looked like, it made sense. So what I did, I just asked him, he owned him free and clear, so I asked him if he would be interested in just being the bank for a few years. And since he owned them free and clear, why not? I mean, in worst case, he takes them back.
The unit seller financing piece he mentioned it is open, just so everyone knows what we're talking about.
So I approached him with I agreed to the number that he wanted, just to vet off or to fend off anybody else, any other would-be people that would come in and steal that from me. But I negotiated with him 20-year AM, 5-year call, 7% interest. Sheesh, sorry about that, guys. And he only required me to come to the table with 10%. And then the following year, on the 13th payment, come up with the additional 10%. So it allowed me to get into that deal pretty easily.
So it was a 7% interest rate. It was a 20-year amortization, right, for the monthly payment. And that's well done. And a 5-year call, which means get it paid off in 5 years or refi or do whatever you need to do, but I'm out, give me my money.
Yep.
That's well done. And did you approach him with those numbers, or did he, or how did you guys sort that?
So the only number he approached me with was the number, the nut. Yeah. This is what I want for this package. So I went into it, and the only thing I wanted to get out of that meeting was, are you willing to be the bank? Are you willing to do seller financing? If the answer was yes, then I'm like, inside, like, don't show him your cards, man. I'm like getting pumped, right? I'm getting excited. And I got out of there, I said, all right, this is great, let's talk terms, but let's talk those another day. So I stepped out of the meeting, got on the phone with one of my mentors and said, hey, help me navigate these waters, these negotiation waters. And we did it obviously successfully, and there was very little negotiation there because we both felt, we came to the table with something fair, and we both felt we were getting something fair.
So we're talking about acquiring real estate as a general thought here, right? How to do it, how to finance, all these tricks and tips, and what kind of workload is it to manage 1 million properties and all these different things. But that story to me isn't the great deal. It is being creative and all that, that is. But to me, it's identifying what the seller wanted and what his hot button was. Yep. And his hot button was, I don't want to manage these properties anymore, and this is what I want for it. How he got there was open for negotiation and creativity, and that's what Shaun did in an incredibly great way. And I think the lesson there is, when you are trying to acquire properties, figure out what the hot button is for the person selling it. Because someone wants top dollar, well, maybe you want to roll on that. This dude just wanted to get out. He had money. He didn't want to manage it. They were ready to go. They were fully occupied. I want X amount of dollars. How do we get there? That's a well done deal.
That's right. Thank you very much. And they were all cash flowing. They all met my monthly cash flow requirements. I have in my business model, I have a very specific cash flow requirement that I want. They all met it. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Hands back here.
So how did you find that deal and really all your prior deals?
Good question. That deal specifically was through networking, through Scott actually, so somebody Scott knows. Most of those units were in a neighborhood that I primarily invest in, I'm very familiar with, and so it was just brought to my attention first, just because Scott knows that's kind of my neighborhood. Most of my other deals though, I bought some off the MLS, I bought some from wholesalers, I've deployed my own marketing campaigns and successfully acquired rentals directly from the homeowner. But I've got wholesalers now that they'll come to me before they'll launch it out to their buyers list, say, hey, Shaun, are you interested in this one? In fact, I went with a wholesaler when he locked up a deal. He wanted me to look at it, and while we were there, I nodded, and he locked it up, and we went to the car, and then I locked it up. So networking, coming to these things with a purpose, not just to be a wallflower, but to come to these things and have a purpose. So you want to meet a hard money lender, maybe you want to meet a wholesaler, whatever it is.
And there is a whole Terry Royce just walked in. You guys may know him before. He's one of the best, honest, biggest wholesalers in the area. So Father Terry's the guy that looks like he just woke up with sunglasses on. He's probably I don't know, soccer game with his kids or something, right? Terry, that's what you're doing?
That's Bertucci's with my kids.
Oh, Bertucci's. It's well done, very nice. Yeah. I hear Nottingham has good pasta too. But again, I think the lesson in that story, you hear it dripping from Shaun, the entire relationship. Oh, I knew a guy. I knew a realtor. Scott introduced me to a guy. Oh yeah, I knew this guy. That's why we, thank goodness hard money bankers, and we're able to do this for free. Like, this is the room where there's real people doing real deals. Shaun's a real guy doing real business. Ian and Dan are real people doing a lot of business. Terry's a real dude doing real business. Scott's a real dude doing real, meet people, mingle. Aaron's coming up here later. Stinky Pete, as we affectionately call him. He does real business. He has a full-time job. He's a male nurse. He'll tell us about that later on. I'm just kidding. He's in the medical business. But there are real people. I had to give him a hard time. That was my one thing. They said, Glenn, you got to give Pete a hard time. I said, no problem. But there are real people in this room doing real things, build relationships, because that's really how you get things done. So anyway, yes, sir.
It sounds like you're targeting a specific area. Can you speak to that?
The question is, how do you target areas and what are you targeting?
That's a great question. So I mentioned earlier in my model, I require a certain dollar cash flow per unit, right? So that's after the debt service, after your insurance, your maintenance, your water, your taxes, everything. After all of that, what's left? I've got a requirement there, and there's certain neighborhoods in the city that I feel more comfortable in than others. I mentioned earlier I only invest in Baltimore City because it's where I live. It's just convenient. Excuse me. Is anybody familiar with citydata.com? Is anybody familiar with that site? Okay, a couple people? All right, cool. So if you go on that site, you can find by neighborhood the percentage of homeowner to tenant ratio. You can find the age of the home. You can find just anything you want, anything you can think of. The average number of people that live in that home, 2.6. I don't even know what 0.6 person looks like, but there's that. But so to answer your question specifically, I go in there and I look at neighborhoods that I often see on the investor pages on Facebook. People talking about this neighborhood, that neighborhood, and another. Like, well, let me go look into these neighborhoods, and I find them, and I have certain criteria when I look at these neighborhoods. I want a home that's built in this particular neighborhood I invest in. There's an older pocket and there's a newer pocket. The newer pocket, these homes were built in the 50s. Well, you know, lead paint was outlawed in '78. Baltimore City was in the 50s. So if the home's built in the 50s, odds are it's going to have less lead paint. Less lead paint means less of an abatement. Less of an abatement, it's less of a rehab, right? So everything I do, I want lead free. So I tend to look at homes that are younger and in terrible shape. That's what I'm after. But so certain neighborhoods that fit those criteria, and a few of the criteria that I pull from city data, that's basically how I find them.
So I guess the first thought is target where you know. I got you in the back. If you know Jason Bale, the guy who came up here that he and Chris had known, Hard Money Bankers, if you go to their website, there's a million videos, educational stuff. They're contributors to Inman, which is a big real estate website, and also Entrepreneur, part of our Entrepreneur Network. And you'll see video after video after video on all different types of things, businesses, real estate, finance, what have you. And the one thing Jason will always say is, Hard Money Bankers lends in the market that they know. And I think I would take that lesson and spin it to you. Buy and invest in real estate in markets you know. You want to branch out and buy stuff in California because you have a friend of a cousin, his brother went to college out there and might have a deal, have at it. Shaun knows Baltimore. He's from Baltimore, he knows that area, he's staying in that area. Know your area, be an expert at it, and that's the best way to identify a market and then to farm it. And then of course you have to do your money matrix to make sure it makes sense and all that. And then they can get into the years and the lead-based paint and HVACs and roofs and whatever, but that's it. Yes, sir, in the back. I got you over here, guys.
Can you walk through the financials of one deal, like as detailed as you can? Like how much did you pay? How much did you rehab? How did you finance it? What are you getting for rent? And
sure.
Showing what the capital. I mean, I don't know if you have something off your head.
Sure, I can rattle something off. I have purchased a house for $36,500, put $29,000 and some change into it. It was worth like $95,000. I was a little disappointed with that appraisal, but whatever. It's renting for $1,247 a month. My hard money payment, I took a $75,000 loan. Yeah, I took like a $75,000 loan. Yep. So at 12% interest for a hard money payment until I refied it was $750. Renting for $1,247. So, I mean, are there any other numbers acquisition 35-ish, 36.5, rehab 30, renting for $1,247, all in for 75-ish with closing costs.
So if I can follow up, so you're getting hard money for the rehab portion, and then you're getting a bank loan once it's done?
No, yes, I'm getting hard money for the acquisition and the rehab, and then once it's stable, meaning tenants in place, renovations done, then I refinance it and put a long-term amortized commercial loan on it.
And you pay the hard
money. And I pay my hard money lender off, you got it.
So the way it works is generally when people call hard money bankers, they have a deal, it'll get underwritten, you get your construction and acquisition, you get your acquisition and your construction money, right? They lend off the ARV, the after rehab value. So in this case, it'd be 95, which he was a little disappointed with, but whatever, because he's not trying to really sell it, right? Because it's a buy and hold. It's a cash flow play.
Right. I came out of pocket $1,200 and some change on that one. I'm happy to do that because if that thing cash flows $300, 4 months later I broke even, right? So
you also didn't give us the taxes on that property.
Those property taxes. That neighborhood's a little more expensive.
$150 a month.
2,200 a year, 2,100 a year or so. So give or take.
Yeah. Okay. So you refied out of the hard money loan, 12%, whatever that payment was. Who cares? Because that really pays for itself. The deal pays for that. Then you're out of it. It cash flows even with the hard money, but you're not paying the hard money long term. Short term money, refi out of that bank, pays off the hard money lender, and now you're at long term financing, right? Leverage on the property, and it's time to hit the cash machine. So your PITI, principal, tax and insurance, holding costs, all that junk is what? $700 and you're getting $1,250? I'm just ballparking it.
No, it's actually much less. It's in the 400s.
Wonderful. So $500 a month in nut and $1,250 in cash flow. Bring it up.
But then
I mean, that's awesome.
So when you find that property for $30,000, then you're building everything on top of that.
What do you mean by building everything on top of that?
If you were,
so I'll do it for you. So the lender says, knowing, because the hard money lenders, Jason or Scott or whomever it is, right? They know, all right, I know this area, I know what this is. If you do a proper rehab, it's going to be worth 100 grand, 95. But let's say 100 to make it easy math, right? Okay, great. How much is it going to take for you to get it right? Well, you bought it for 30, probably going to take you another 35. All right, so you're in it for 65 LTV on a 100 house? No problem. We'll lend that to you. Great. Do it. Rehab the house, it's ready to go, it's done, good. We've given you your monies throughout the rehab, so you're all in for 65, you owe the hard money lender 65, the house is worth 100, and you put a renter in there for 1250. You suck it up, you pay the hard money lender a few months, right? You go to the bank and you say, hey, I got this property, appraise it for me. They appraise it for 100 grand. Great, how much do you owe? I owe 65. Great, we'll give you a loan for 70,000. They give you a loan for 70,000, you pay off your hard money banker.
What am I doing up here? Yeah.
I mean, right? That's what it is. Okay, good. Talk to Josh, talk to Jason. Anyway, 1 second. Yes, ma'am.
Refi, are you in a unique situation where you can turn around and refi super soon, or how long?
Why isn't there a year seasoning, Shaun?
Sure. I shopped. So I spent some time putting together a nice presentation, about 30 slides, a lot of pictures.
Real quick, you have to remember there's rehab involved in this, so it's going to take them 3, 4, 5, 6 months for purchase anyway. So once that gets recorded on the deed, you're already 4, 5, 6 months in before you even find a renter. So that's good news for you because you've already allocated that time and that money and that payment to the hard money lender, and maybe some hard money lenders have you back end the payment and not have to pay it monthly while you're rehabbing, so there's different things there. So you're already halfway home into the year seasoning if you have to have a year seasoning, but if you don't because you shop it.
Some banks, most banks I found when I was shopping it, local community portfolio lenders did require a 12-month seasoning. Not all of them though, so you got to spend some time shopping and pitch into the banks. Otherwise, you just hold that note for 12 months and then refi once you've met that 12-month seasoning. But if you analyze your deal well enough, it's going to cash flow with hard money, so it's only going to get better.
And so remember, if the nut was 700, in this example, $750 a month, right, to the hard money lender, and it's cash flowing 500 over top of that, right, 750 and the 1250 rent, you have to allocate that in your books and in your mind mentally as part of the acquisition and part of the deal. And when you refi out of that into the bank long-term cheaper financing, think about how many months it's going to take to recoup the lost money, and it's 2 months, 3 months. I mean, it's nothing. It's part of the deal. Oh, well, it's 12% interest rate, and I got to pay this guy, this rich guy. No, you don't have that property that's cash flowing a double money for you without that hard money, without refining from the bank. It's just part of the process. My advice would be take the emotion out of what the numbers look like in terms of interest rate and 12-month seasoning. Why do I have to wait? And look at the math. It's pure math, no emotion. Shaun has given us a million examples, and I hope he continues to, of how the math makes sense and you just have to do it. 1 second, sir. Yes?
Yeah, I just want to ask, how do you take into consideration maintenance costs for the business?
The question was, how do you take into consideration the maintenance costs? So in my calculator before I acquire a property, I know that if I'm going to renovate that thing, it's going to be a fully renovated house, right? New mechanicals in that. So the maintenance should be relatively low. I budget for $75 to $100 per month going towards maintenance, whether that's lawn care, bed bugs, or whatever the issue is. I mean, it's allocated. So I budget about $75 for a fully renovated house. Is that a science? Not really.
So he's mitigating, the thought is you mitigate your month-to-month maintenance costs because you go in and redo the roof, put in a new HVAC, and yeah, there's carpet, there's drywall, or sometimes plaster, but when you're doing that, I don't want to say at scale, but when you're doing it in large forms of repaint or recarpet, it's not that much.
Is that to say like $100 a month on a $100,000 property?
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
Some people pay 25% as a general rule. 25% of their rent is allocated towards maintenance. Some of it's a lot less, some of it's more, but people as a general rule say throw 20, 25. Ian, what do you guys do for maintenance? I know you're fully rehab too, but
we're fully rehab, but we budget $50 a month.
Yep.
$50 a month, $75.
There's no capex for the first 10. There's no expenditure for the first 10 years besides any damage.
Besides normal term expenses like carpet and fresh coat of paint. We had a bunch of questions here. Yes, sir.
Tell us a little more how your marketing.
How are you marketing to find deals? Is that the question?
You're looking at it, man. I come to these things. I don't, marketing is a whole other job, man. These wholesalers, they work. I mean, they're work. Talk to Terry, he's working. It's a job. And I mentioned earlier, I don't want a job. So I have relationships with Terry's and the other wholesalers in the industry locally. That's how I do my marketing. It's just communicating with networks, just networking, that's it. I mean, I have done a couple of mailing campaigns. I've got a storage unit with a bunch of bandit signs in it that I'm probably never going to use. I'm just reaching, I mean, I've got, like I mentioned, you do enough of this networking, the wholesalers come to you with their deals, and it keeps you busy enough.
So a wholesaler wants to build a relationship with somebody that they know is actually going to buy a place, execute on it, either flip it or hold it for a rental, like it, know they did a good job, start making cash flow. So then Shaun goes and knocks on their door again and says, hey, you have another house to sell me? And the wholesaler wants to hear nothing more than, you want a house to sell me? Of course, that's all they want to do, is sell houses. So again, it goes back. We've done many meetings up here where we have hours of marketing tips and bandit signs and direct mailing and what list to go to, and that's extremely important. Shaun's done it the other way, which is wildly successful. Build a relationship with the right people, execute on those deals, make sure it makes money for yourself, and people will come back to you and say, hey, do you want to buy this place? And if it makes sense to Shaun, he'll do it. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to ask, for the deals you use self-directed IRA money with, how many rentals do you hold inside your self-directed versus how many do you have in regular LLCs?
Good question.
That's an interesting question. And I'm going to have, so the question was, I'm sorry, the question was how many of the deals that I've purchased with my self-directed, how many are held in the self-directed and how many are held in the LLC? I can take this conversation offline, but everything that I own is owned in an entity, an LLC, not in the IRA. And I'll explain how that is, but offline. Because that conversation can go for a while.
Yeah. So I think I need to explain a touch more of the very little information I have about self-directing funds. And Jason, actually, Jake, you want to come up here and explain it? Because it's not that the fund owns the property per se, it's that the fund is being allocated on a deal that's inside, like, Jason, you explain it. You're an expert at this.
What do you need to know about self-directed IRAs?
Yeah. Come over here to the camera. What was the question? The question was...
I think his question was individually towards your setup, but pretty much you can buy the property inside the self-directed IRA, but it's got to stay inside the self-directed IRA. Every expense has to stay inside the self-directed IRA. You can't go mingle your own personal funds with it. If that's in a position that you're in, the cool thing is you can do a leverage piece on self-directed IRA. So you go to a hard money lender and say, buying this property for $100,000, the hard money lender gives you 70, let's say, you put up 30 in your self-directed IRA and it stays in there. You can do that as a flip, you can do that as a rental, but you cannot commingle personal and self-directed IRA funds.
So in that case, the property that you purchase stays by itself with those funds that you allocated?
Yeah.
Yep.
So there's a lot of different custodians out there. If you want to email me at jason@hardmoneybankers.com, I'm happy to share a few that we've used in the past. It's a good vehicle, but you do got to make sure you're not self-dealing, because self-dealing will bite you.
Bite you hard.
Yes, sir.
So as a follow-up question, how many retires if the money, the property
Good question.
The self-directed IRA, which you cannot officially get the money out until you're 59?
I mean, it's an asset, right? So it wouldn't work for day-to-day cash flow. It would work just like any other long-term retirement asset. It would stay there and it would grow and you'd build wealth through it. That would be the purpose of it. There's no point in putting it in there if you're looking for short-term cash flow from it.
Well, if someone's objective is to quit their job, like Shaun is, maybe 5-10 years, then
it wouldn't be a great strategy to replace your current income. It'd be a great strategy for assets.
Right.
And I'm going to follow up on something related to that when you guys are done.
No, do it now.
I think a big takeaway, we didn't talk too much about transactional stuff today. We didn't talk about finding deals, construction stuff. We've done lots of topics related to that. If you go to Hard Money Banker's blog, you can find a lot of topics. But one key takeaway that I took from Shaun, and it's something that we talk about regularly, is it doesn't matter if you own a business, it doesn't matter if you have a W-2 job, all that really doesn't matter. It's about the money that you're bringing in on a regular basis. Obviously, you need to pay your bills, and the rest of that money you need to put towards assets. It could be retirement assets, it could be rentals for additional income, but the goal of that is to live within your means, obviously, and use the rest of that money to save, to invest in assets. The good part about real estate investing is real estate is an asset. So it's a great kind of mechanism. So again, it doesn't matter if, I know so many people that, technically I have a full-time job. My full-time job is in real estate, and I use income from my full-time job of lending and investing in real estate to invest more in real estate. And that's the goal, of it. So it doesn't really matter where your money's coming from as long as you properly take that money and continue to invest in assets. That's the key. So like Shaun said, he lives well beneath his means.
That's right.
I believe a lot of people, in our sphere live well beneath our means, and we take every extra dollar that we have and we try to buy a property to flip, we try to buy a property rental. And keep in mind, flipping a house, that's not really an asset, right? You're flipping a house, it's just it's a one-off deal. You're making income off of it. It's like wholesaling. It's a one-off deal. But if you're buying rental real estate that's growing over time, Shaun's not necessarily, maybe he is, but a lot of people aren't necessarily just buying rentals to live off the income all the time. Yeah, that's great. Hey, I get $300 or I get $400 that's going to be able to live a better lifestyle than I'm living now. But think about a much bigger picture. Similar to what you said. Hey, I'm buying this property in my self-directed IRA. Well, the goal of that is, hey, I'm building my self-directed IRA, and that's going to grow probably faster than giving that to a money manager or doing a whatever company 401k plan or things like that.
And the point is, you're not taking that cash flow off that $100,000 property example and buying a car with it or paying the note, which you could if you wanted to, but you're rolling that money into another property. And Jason mentioned it when we were talking about how do you allocate your funds with your W-2 job. Do you pay your bills with a W-2 job and then keep rolling your real estate? And Shaun said, subtly, but it was there. I live below my means, and if I have extra cash, I put that into real estate as well because I know that I can gain exponentially more money off of that. So thank you, Dad. I think that's a good point of earn money, live beneath your means, and invest it. Thank you, Father. Good job.
Piggyback what Jason said, I mentioned earlier that my contract when I started a flipping business, so that is essentially my job, right? So I do still have a job, but it's not working for the man.
Great. Do we have any questions? We're going to take a break and have two other guys come up and chat a little bit. Yes, sir. We have a bunch of questions, but yes, sir.
Other than sell the property, is there any way to get the property out of the self-directed IRA?
How do you get out of a self-directed IRA besides selling the asset is the question. Jason, the non-IRA.
I don't think so without paying the tax plus the, what's that, early.
Yeah, the early
penalty.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But who knows, if it's big enough gain, big enough profit, maybe it makes sense to pay the tax, but I don't like paying taxes. All right, we're going to take a longer break.